Hello again, and welcome to the Stoner Report. I'm Marius Stoner, Associate Editor of Cannabis Culture Magazine, here with the weekly marijuana news wrap-up. We're having some good weather here in Vancouver. It's a little windy today and a few clouds, but we're looking forward to a gorgeous weekend. Jody is off to Texas for a drug conference. So she should be back on Tuesday, so best wishes to her. Hope everything goes okay. And we're looking forward to Marc's return in just over a month now. So, thanks again for joining me. Glad that you're all here. Hope everybody's smoking good stuff in chat. And here we go. Health Canada swamped with medical marijuana grow-up applications. Health Canada is struggling to process a mountain of applications for licenses to grow medical marijuana as the country experiences a green rush of firms wanting to grab a piece of the coming boom. The department received 858 applications as of late last month, and new ones were coming in the door at an average of 25 per week. An application frenzy has drawn basement growers, well-heeled entrepreneurs with pharmacy expertise, and even struggling junior mining firms trying to find a lucrative new business line. Health Canada radically changed the rules for medical marijuana on April 1st, moving approved production from a cottage industry of thousands of loosely regulated growers to a commercial competitive sector, with an anticipated 50 larger companies shipping high-quality weed in dozens of strains. Prices are being set by the free market, and Health Canada is imposing no limit on the number of sanctioned indoor weed farms as long as they can pass regulatory muster. Minnesota's medical marijuana battle is far from over. Medical marijuana patients, advocates, and supporters delivered flowers to Minnesota Governor Marc Dayton on Friday, protesting legislation they say falls far too short. Medical marijuana patients and advocates delivered 33 flowers to Minnesota Governor Marc Dayton's mansion in St. Paul on Friday to protest the severely limited medical marijuana legislation the governor signed into law on Thursday. The flower delivery and protest were organized by the medical marijuana advocacy group Minnesotans for Compassionate Care, who hope to raise awareness about the seriously ill Minnesotans who will still not be able to legally access medical marijuana under the new law. Although the new medical marijuana law is expected to positively impact about 5,000 Minnesotans, Governor Dayton's insistence, per recommendation of law enforcement, that medical marijuana only be legalized in oil and pill form for a limited group of patients means that at least 33,000 people in the state will continue to go without legal access to medical marijuana. Many seriously ill Minnesotans and their families have been waiting a long time to reach this point. Heather Azzi, political director for Minnesotans for Compassionate Care, said at a press conference held by the organization on Friday. The new law holds promise for many seriously ill Minnesotans, but it also leaves many behind. Unfortunately, there are a lot of Minnesotans suffering from truly debilitating conditions who will not be allowed to access medical marijuana under the new law. As he continued, the legislature must come back next session ready to expand upon this bill so that all Minnesotans who could benefit from medical marijuana are able to access it. The USDA blocks Georgia from implementing food stamp drug testing law. The U.S. Department of Agriculture told the state of Georgia that its new law requiring some food stamp recipients to undergo drug testing violates federal policy. The state cannot implement the new law, federal officials said Tuesday. The Georgia law passed in March and signed into law by Governor Nathan Deal, would require food stamp recipients to undergo drug testing if state workers have a reasonable suspicion that they are using drugs. The reasonable suspicion language, common in a new generation of proposed bills aimed at drug testing public benefits recipients, is designed to get around federal prohibitions against random, suspicionless drug testing, which the federal courts interpret as violating the unwarranted search provisions of the Fourth Amendment. But while Georgia was able to get around the Fourth Amendment concerns, the new law still runs afoul of USDA policy. That policy prohibits states from mandating drug testing of food stamp applicants and recipients, wrote Robin Bailey, Regional Administrator of the USDA Food and Nutrition Service, in a letter to Georgia officials. While a number of states have passed reasonable suspicion, or the equivalent, public benefits drug testing laws, Georgia is the only one to have passed a law that includes food stamp recipients. If state legislators elsewhere are paying attention, it should also be the last to do so. Nikki Haley signs medical marijuana bill into law. South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley signed the Medical Cannabis Therapeutic Treatment Research Act into law Monday, clearing the way for children with severe epilepsy to use cannabidiol oil, CBD, a non-psychoactive derivative of cannabis, to help reduce their seizures if recommended by a licensed physician. The bill, which passed the Senate unanimously and cleared the House with a 92-5 vote, will also designate a new clinical trial at the Medical University of South Carolina dedicated to evaluating the effectiveness of CBD in controlling epileptic seizures. 7 other states, Alabama, Iowa, Kentucky, Mississippi, Tennessee, Utah, and Wisconsin, have also implemented similar CBD-only medical marijuana proposals in the last 4 months. Medical marijuana legal in Florida with proof of need. In November, Florida voters will decide whether to legalize marijuana for medical use. But right now, there is a provision in Florida law that allows the use of medical marijuana for certain patients. The Florida doctrine of medical necessity is not well known, but it is being used by people here in the state who say medicinal marijuana is their last hope. The use of medical marijuana has been legal in Florida for medical use for more than 2 decades, but those turning to cannabis must prove its medical necessity. "We want medical marijuana for her," said Annalise Clark. "We were ready to leave our home and move." Clark, just months ago, says her mind was made. She had planned to move to Colorado, where she believes her 9-year-old daughter, Christina, would have a better quality of life. "There's really nothing left now, new medicines that are coming out every day," said Clark. "But side effects are horrific." With not even a decade behind, her little Christina has undergone 3 brain surgeries, taken 16 different medications, and traveled to 3 countries for stem cell treatment. Born with epilepsy, uncontrollable seizures have become a constant in her life. "It's very difficult to watch," said Clark. Tired of watching her child suffer, Clark is making a bold move. Suppressing her fears, she's ready to provide Christina with a drug now embroiled in a controversial fight in the state of Florida. Colorado Attorney General backs company's firing of medical marijuana patient. The state attorney general's office says Coloradans do not have a right to use marijuana off the job, siding with a satellite television company in its firing of a medical marijuana patient. In a brief filed with the state Supreme Court last month, the Colorado Attorney General's office argues that giving workers a right to use marijuana off-duty would have profound and detrimental impact on employers in the state. Contrary to popular perception, Colorado has not simply legalized marijuana for medical and recreational purposes, state attorneys write in the brief. Instead, its citizens have adopted narrowly drawn constitutional amendments that decriminalize small amounts of marijuana. The Colorado Court of Appeals, the state's second highest court, last year upheld Dish Network's firing of a quadriplegic medical marijuana patient for a positive drug test. Though there is no allegation that Brandon Coates was stoned at work, the company said it has a zero-tolerance policy on marijuana. Coates says his off-the-job marijuana use should be protected by the Colorado's lawful off-duty activity statute, which prevents companies from firing employees for doing things outside of work, like smoking cigarettes that are legal. Dish Network argues that marijuana use can be considered lawful while cannabis remains, or cannot be considered lawful while cannabis remains illegal federally. Las Vegas Council agrees to initial medical marijuana rules. The complexity of regulating medical marijuana tongue-tied Las Vegas lawmakers as they slog through 27 pages of proposed rules today. When the City Council finished, this is what they did. They approved language in the law's preamble that correlated medical marijuana dispensaries with violent crime robberies, burglaries, traffic, noise, drug and gang activity, organized crime, and money laundering and firearms violations. Lois Tarkinen, Stavros Anthony, Steve Ross, and Mayor Carolyn Goodman agreed with that language. Limited medical pot dispensaries to the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. An attempt to extend those hours was voted down. Agreed to allow medical pot deliveries to the homes of those with Nevada medical marijuana card holders. Agreed that medical pot can be obtained in Nevada, but outside of Las Vegas if it's the city's business licensing chief determines there's a shortage in Las Vegas. Voted to ban misleading, deceptive, or false advertising. Voted to review medical pot licenses after the 2 years. Voted to lower required surety bonds from $500,000 to $250,000. City staff said they will be holding public workshops in the next few weeks and that the city will likely begin accepting applications in July. Well, happy 220 to everybody in the Pacific time zone, and happy 420 to everybody in the center there somewhere. Who knows where that is? Yeah, I do have a joint rolled at the moment, so I'll roll one. Let's just move here to a different thing. Marc Emery has but 33 days in his sentence left. Oh dear. My camera didn't upload. I had an image of the little countdown, but it didn't upload yet, so we'll just assume that it says 33 days behind me. And we'll just roll a brief joint. And I hope everybody in chat is getting high. How are you guys doing in chat today? Enjoying the show? Yeah, so it's really hard to believe. In just over a month, Marc Emery is going to be back. That's just like insanity. Just before that, we're going to have a huge Cannabis Day celebration at the Art Gallery. This will be the last time at the art gallery because the city is going to be doing some construction around there. So we're going to be moving both our 420 and our Cannabis Day next year. We're not entirely certain yet. We're thinking possibly convention center down near the waterfront. It's pretty nice down there. A lot of open space, and we've had discussions with the city about that. But don't quote me on that. We're not exactly sure. Be sure to let you know, all you people who want booths. Yeah, don't forget to watch Jeremiah's show after mine at 4 o'clock. And Redbeard's show is on tomorrow. Everybody loves watching him blow glass, that's for sure. And let's see, we have don't forget to watch the Vapor Central shows as well. Opus has a show, and Matt Murnaugh. Not sure that when those are scheduled, but they're on our Pop TV during the week. And then next week, of course, we'll have Al's show in the mornings. On Tuesday on the Be Real Network. And then Wednesday, of course, is From Under the Influence with Marijuana Man. And this week Taylor was on the show. She's an ex-lounge employee who used to hang out on Greg's show a lot with the Baked in BC girls. She runs the Baked in BC girls. So she'll be back next week, I think. So it's good to see her again. Yeah, I think I did okay wasting time there, just as I rolled this joint. Small talk has never been my forte, but I guess I did okay. Alright, almost ready. Yeah, don't forget to come down to the lounge, 307 West Hastings. Check us out. Smoke from our vaporizer. Actually, you don't smoke from a vaporizer. You vaporize. Or from our bongs. You can rent bongs. And check out our store downstairs, 307 West Hastings as well. Free Marc hoodies. They're almost all gone. They're still 50% off until Marc comes back, and we'll never have to print them again with any luck. Alright. Let's get this joint on the road. What I'm smoking is some Bubba Kush. I have to say it's one of my favorites. I know Kushes are really common and a lot of people poo-poo them, but I just love the taste. Nice bud. Alright, well, thanks for bearing with me. Looked like I did that. And back to the news. The House passes historic medical marijuana amendment. Late Thursday night, the House of Representatives told the DEA to butt out of medical marijuana states by approving a budget amendment barring the use of taxpayer funds to do so. Now things are changing fast. Efforts to pass similar amendments have never come close in previous years. The previous best was 165 yay votes in 2007. The amendment passed with 30 votes tonight, or by 30 votes. Tom Angle of Marijuana Policy is liking what he's seen. This historic vote shows how quickly marijuana reform has become a mainstream issue, he said. The last time a similar amendment came up, it didn't come very close to passing, but since then, more states have passed medical marijuana laws, and a couple have even legalized marijuana for all adults. More states are on this way later this year and in 2016, and it's clear that more politicians are beginning to realize that the American people want the federal government to stop standing in the way. If any political observers weren't aware that the end of the war on marijuana is nearing, they just found out. It ain't a done deal just yet, though. If the Senate version of the bill doesn't contain similar language, it will be up to the House leadership to fight for the amendment, or not, in conference committees. Marijuana coffee promises a different morning jolt. A company in Washington state will introduce marijuana coffee this summer. Mirth Provisions cold brew coffee contains 20 milligrams of THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, per 11.5-ounce bottle. Mirth founder Adam Stites said he has been developing the marijuana coffee concept for about a year, working at first on recipes in his kitchen. The product for sale will give the drinker more of a head high, more energizing, Stites said. Mirth also will sell sparkling sodas that contain THC with flavors such as lemon, ginger, and pomegranate. The drinks will cost about $9 to $11, Stites said. I think their concept is wake and bake. New ads target members of Congress who opposed medical marijuana measure. Medical marijuana advocates are turning up the heat on House lawmakers who last week voted against an amendment to block the Drug Enforcement Administration from cracking down on state legal medical marijuana shops and patients. The appropriations measure prohibiting the DEA from spending funds to arrest state-licensed medical marijuana patients and providers, which was sponsored by Representatives Dana Rohrabacher and Sam Farr, still passed 219 to 189. But reform group Americans for Safe Access is targeting ads against some lawmakers who voted no, beginning with Reps Andy Harris and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. The reason for these two particular members of Congress has to do with their especially outspoken opposition to medical marijuana, despite its popular support in their districts, said Chris Hearns, spokesman for Americans for Safe Access. Spokesman. Although the Rohrabacher-Farr amendment was passed with a solid majority, the influence of these two elected officials is significant, and their efforts to derail a measure supported by the vast majority of Americans is troubling and must be confronted. The Harris and Wasserman Schultz spots will appear on MSNBC in Maryland and Florida over the next several days. A total of 17 Democrats joined 172 Republicans in voting against the amendment. Harris spoke on the floor house last week in opposition to the amendment. He insisted that there are no medical benefits to marijuana, despite much evidence to the contrary, and that medical marijuana laws are a step towards legalizing recreational pot. Inside the House's historic vote on medical marijuana, an amendment that would prohibit the Fed from interfering in state medical pot laws is still up in the air. The GOP-controlled House surprised just about everyone when it voted 218 to 189 for a pro-medical marijuana amendment on Friday. The amendment, tacked on to the much larger criminal justice funding bill, H.R. 4660, would prohibit the Department of Justice from using federal taxpayer funds to interfere with medical marijuana laws in 22 states that have passed them. The House vote was historic. It was the first time since Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 that the majority of a chamber of Congress voted in favor of something that would alter national marijuana policy. Unanswered questions linger about the amendment, however. Will the Senate allow the amendment to remain attached to the funding bill? Will it acquire the necessary will it then acquire the necessary signatures from Obama? And if passed, will this mark the beginning of the marijuana policy paradigm shift that a majority of American voters are hoping for? Polls have shown more than 51% voter support for across-the-board legalization, and there is 81% support for medical cannabis. The bipartisan amendment was co-authored by Representatives Dana Rohrabacher and Sam Farr. In the House, 170 Democrats and 49 Republicans voted in favor of the amendment. 172 Republicans and 17 Democrats voted against it. Sorry. I believe there's a mix-up a bit. DEA Targeting Doctors linked to medical marijuana groups in Massachusetts. While the Obama administration has sent some signals to states that it won't interfere with the implementation of medical marijuana laws, the Drug Enforcement Administration in recent weeks has visited doctors who hold administrative positions with companies seeking dispensary licenses in Massachusetts and told them to resign or risk losing their registration to prescribe controlled medications. The DEA officials have gone so far as to show up at the homes of doctors involved with prospective medical marijuana dispensaries, and at least 2, but possibly more physicians have already resigned their positions with medical marijuana organizations as a result, according to multiple sources. They're going directly to the doctors, not setting appointments and giving them an ultimatum, said Valerio Romano, an attorney in Boston who represents several applicants for dispensary license in Massachusetts. Romano founded Massachusetts Marijuana Compliance, a part of the VGR law firm. The full impact of the actions by the DEA on the fledgling medical marijuana industry in Massachusetts remains unclear. But those involved in the industry say they worry it could not only delay the State Department of Public Health's licensing process even further, but also spook those in the medical community, many of whom are already wary of their role in the implementation of the voter-approved law legalizing medical marijuana. The main problem that I see with all this is the rollout for the program is already 5+ months behind. And if applicants are amending their applications to remove directors or members of the executive management team, this will just force the DPH to relook at the plans the applicants have, Romano said. And finally, a story on hemp. It's not a news story per se, but it is a good essay explaining the differences between hemp and marijuana. What is the difference between hemp and marijuana? The largely misunderstood distinction now has 2 correct answers. What is the difference between hemp and marijuana? The short answer, semantics. The long answer, the difference is a largely misunderstood distinction that now has 2 correct answers, a legal one and a scientific one. And like all things proven by scientists, it is somehow up for public and political debate. Thanks to nearly 80 years of federal cannabis prohibition, public knowledge on the topic is limited to rumors and misinterpretations perpetuated online. Everything from hemp plants are male and marijuana plants are female, to one is a drug and the other is not. The legal definitions also have muddied the water, as legislators have passed laws at both the federal and state levels defining hemp in the pursuit of both fiber and medicine. So what exactly is the difference between marijuana and hemp? Let's start with the semantics. Hemp refers to strains of cannabis sativa that have been bred specifically for fiber and used for clothing and construction, oils and topical ointments, nutritional benefits, and a wide and growing variety of other purposes that don't involve intoxication. Marijuana is a slang term used to describe strains of cannabis sativa specifically bred for the potent resinous glands, trichomes, that grow on the flowers and some leaves, buds. While there is some dispute over the origins of the term marijuana, it was introduced into popular use by Hearst-era newspaper as a way to instill fear of pot-smoking Mexicans. Wording aside, both hemp and marijuana are, in fact, the same thing. Although both hemp and marijuana as we know them are from the same genus, Cannabis, they are also part of the same species, Cannabis sativa. The scientific differences between what we refer to as hemp and marijuana comes from the purpose the strains were bred for. All right, that's another edition of the Stoner Report. Thank you all again for joining me. Mark has 33 more days, so there's still time to send him a letter. Go to freemark.ca. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on Pod TV. Stay tuned for Jared's show at 4. And don't forget to come to 307 West Hastings if you're in Vancouver and check out our bongs, our hoodies, our smoking implements, and our lounge. Okay, until then, remember, pot's the most advanced plant on the planet, and we're going to use it to save ourselves and save the world. So, until next time, take care. I'll see you then.
Okay, so your guys' is friendly. Let's try to get in with one.